for example, I've seen you on TV a lot in the last couple of years. I know everything you know or that you tell us about the Russian situation. I don't have a clue what you think about healthcare. I've never heard it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you're for Medicare for all or improve Obamacare or get a chicken. I don't know what.
Yeah.
How do we help you get this done? Not how do we put more obstacles in the way? I haven't forgotten about your roof. All of that is important to keeping.
And my pot store.
And what?
And the pot store, the Woods that I own with Woody Harrelson. It's just the biggest problem we had was the government of California.
There's something deeply satisfying about watching a politician walk into a conversation, thinking they're about to deliver the usual polished practice media trained performance, and then realizing about 30 seconds too late that they're not in a safe room anymore. Because it's not just a debate, this clash between Bill Maher and Adam Schiff is so compelling. It is a test of stress. It is what occurs when talking points clash with common sense. Sincerely, this is the reason why people can't stop watching things like this. So before we get started, please like, subscribe, and let us know when you think Schiff has completely lost it. As this video gets more and more revealing as it goes on, you can immediately sense the tension. Bill Maher is not there to engage in the typical cable news game in which everyone nods in agreement, repeats the same phrases, and pretends that there are no obvious contradictions. He is present to test the weak points, and Schiff shows up, which is good for him. However, showing up and standing your ground are two very distinct things, because the neat little sweater of establishment Democrat messaging quickly begins to unravel once Ma starts pulling on the strings. And when Maher reads that statement about presidential authority and military force early on, one of the best examples is provided Schiff hears it, calls it vague, and does it with a fair amount of confidence to reveal, then disappears those were not Trump's words. They belong to Obama. Boom. The air changes quickly.
This statement from the administration: the president had the constitutional authority to direct the use of military force because he could reasonably determine that such use of force was in the national interest. That's too vague for you?
Totally vague.
Okay, because that's from Obama about Libya.
This is a time that is a trap, because it reveals the aspect of politics that drives ordinary people absolutely insane, regardless of which team is in charge. It appears that the rules always shift. That is the aspect that numerous political elites are still unable to comprehend. Disagreements can be handled by voters. Even bad news can't stop them. They are unable to tolerate obvious hypocrisy disguised as moral seriousness. People will notice if something is authoritarian when done by one man, but complicated when done by your guy. People are aware when something is reckless under one administration, but legal under another. And as soon as they notice, they stop trusting explainers. That is exactly what Ma excels at. He does not always approach these issues in the same way as an ideological bully. He may simply shine a light on a contradiction at times and allow it to unravel on its own. That can be far more destructive than shouting, because you don't need fireworks when someone is caught. Using a double standard in real time, you do the work for yourself in silence. The topic of discussion then turns to California. Since this is not some abstract ideological debate about theory, language, and academic framing, this is honestly where it gets even more interesting. This is about real life, everyday life, the cost of living, taxes, regulations, the departure of businesses, families, and the entertainment industry. Additionally, Ma and others respond in the most obvious way possible when Schiff begins to frame the issue as essentially a matter of other places providing better incentives. No, people are not fleeing California because they woke up one day and decided that Georgia sounded like a fun place to be. There leaving because California has made it extremely difficult to live there and extremely costly to operate there.
If film and TV productions continue to move out of California due to tax incentives in other states, what might the future look for Los Angeles? Is there a risk of it becoming the next Detroit?
But I don't agree with the diagnosis of why the film industry is leaving. They're leaving because they're getting richer incentives in other states and in other countries. And we haven't kept pace with that. So if you want to film in the United Kingdom, you're going to get a tremendous tax break, and our motion picture industry has left the country. If you want to film in New York or Georgia, there are generous tax incentives. If we want to keep the industry here, we're going to have to compete with tax incentives. California has started to do that.
And let's be honest, this is one of those situations in which ordinary people feel as though they're being gaslighted. They're aware of the cost of their rent. They're aware of permit prices. They're aware of insurance costs. They're aware of the time required for approval. They're aware of how impossible it is to buy a house, start a business, or even just breathe without some layer of bureaucracy resting like a concrete block on your chest. People therefore roll their eyes when politicians act as though the diagnosis is somehow mysterious. Although Maher's joke about his roof in the marijuana store is funny, it also works because it makes sense that tale is told by everyone in California in one way or another. Try remodel, try setting up a business, do whatever it takes to navigate state and local government. You suddenly find yourself in a maze created by people who have never had to build, run, or pay for anything before it. Its performance are disguised as bureaucracy.
Every year, California loses people because they are being driven away by a high-tax, high-regulation state where public services don't reach the standards that they should. That should be a signal that we shouldn't have one favored industry or another. We should have a favored state. California should be competitive.